Hi, I'm Michael Keene, and I've got a problem with something. Whoa! Live-action adaptations like Snow White and the upcoming How to Train Your Dragon seem to be all the rage these days. After all, why try something new when you can just regurgitate an old property in glorious live action? Today, I'd like to talk about the problem with live-action adaptations. Now, the problem is pretty simple. Barring a few exceptions, these adaptations tend to be toothless, borderline beat-for-beat retellings of classic animated films with little to nothing to say for themselves as artistic entities. Live-action adaptations have basically been around forever. The 1948 serial Superman is an early example. Fast forward a few decades, in the 80s saw adaptations of Popeye, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Batman. Comics and cartoons continued to surge in popularity within Hollywood throughout the 90s and into the 2000s, when the comic book film industry really hit its stride with Spider-Man and the X-Men franchises. This surge in live-action adaptations wound up giving us a wealth of great superhero movies, but the realm of cartoons was seemingly a bit too much of a leap for most companies. I mean, just look at Masters of the Universe. Yee. The Disney live-action adaptation machine started way back in 1994 with Stephen Sommers' adaptation of the 1967 hit The Jungle Book, followed up in 1996 with the absolute Goliath that was 101 Dalmatians, the remake, obviously, directed by Stephen Herek and memorably starring Glenn Close as Cruella de Vil. In the 2010s, the craze really started to take off. Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland premiered in 2010, the same year as The Sorcerer's Apprentice. 4 years later came Maleficent, which earned a little over $750 million at the box office, before 2015 brought us Kenneth Branagh's Cinderella. That film brought in $500 million on a budget of just $90 million. This was the start of what feels like an unending deluge of adaptations from the House of Mouse. In 2016, we got The Jungle Book and Alice Through the Looking Glass. In 2017 came Beauty and the Beast. 2018 was Christopher Robin. 2019 brought Dumbo, Aladdin, The Lion King, Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and Lady and the Tramp. Then there was Mulan in 2020, Cruella in 2021, that weird Pinocchio movie in 2022, The Little Scene, Peter Pan and Wendy, and The Little Mermaid in 2023, Mufasa in 2024, and finally, Snow White in 2025. And we've still got Lilo and Stitch coming out this year, with Moana set for 2026. As you can see, the production workflow has gained considerable momentum over the last decade and change, and that's just when it comes to Disney cartoons. Now, it should be noted that after I wrote this script, Disney did pull back on one of their live-action adaptations, Tangled. That apparently is paused for now and might not happen thanks to the lack of success with Snow White. So just throwing that out there as a little addendum to that. And with Disney is where I'll be sticking for this video for the most part. That's because they've really cornered the market on live-action adaptations, or whatever you'd call The Lion King. They seem determined to go through their entire catalog, delving through properties like dwarves mining precious gems. It's a tough strategy to criticize, as most of these remakes tend to make a royal shitload of cash at the box office. They aren't all winners, Snow White, Dumbo, looking at you, but for the most part, they're a safe way of taking an established property and recycling it into buku bucks. However, there's more to a good film than just making lots of money. Anyone with a distaste toward Avatar will readily agree that box office isn't everything. There needs to be more. Artistic merit, cultural relevance, and some reverence for the source material. Ideally, these films improve on their animated predecessors, or at least bring with them some fresh perspective toward the material. Maleficent, for example, is not a particularly good film, but it is a different take on the Sleeping Beauty narrative. Alice in Wonderland is similar. While Tim Burton's version might not be for everyone, it's at least an artist presenting their unique take on the material. Meanwhile, 101 Dalmatians is a reasonably faithful adaptation that shows respect for the material, and primarily through Glenn Close's performance, it even has a decent cultural cachet after all these years. The same could actually be said for Alice in Wonderland as well, since there is something horrifically iconic about a few of the character designs. That movie does scare the absolute shit out of me, though. In recent years, it seems as though any interest in being more than just a staid rehash of old cartoons has eluded the Disney adaptations. The Lion King, Mulan, The Little Mermaid, and Snow White, some of the most notable in their marketing budgets, have been pretty unadventurous and mostly left audiences feeling underwhelmed. And yet, the company persists because, like it or not, these movies make money. Well, except for Snow White. That thing is tanking, bro. There's a chance it could make as much as Dumbo or Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, but yeesh, it ain't looking good. Kinda like the movie itself. Ugh, those dwarves are terrifying. But enough ragging on Snow White. The problem is far greater than Gal Gadot's singing abilities and a handful of horrifying CGI dwarves. The problem is that even with the decisions that it made, what's different is superfluous or unnecessary. For example, there's really no need for the bandits whom Snow White meets and saves. After all, she already has the 7 dwarves to help her. It's kinda neat that her love interest is one of them and that she helps him before they fall in love, but it feels kind of stapled on in order for the filmmakers to add something new that extends the runtime and redefines what fair means. It's not something that necessarily adds to the overall experience. Oh wait, I said I was going to stop ragging on Snow White. Sorry. Another issue is that these movies subsist almost entirely on nostalgia. Even with the changes they undertake, the product itself almost doesn't matter. They seem to be produced specifically to make people go, "Oh, I've seen that classic animated property. Maybe I'll enjoy it in live action." Whether or not the audience actually enjoys the film is secondary. The poor CGI, lack of wonderment, and lifeless reinterpretations of classic characters are all fine and dandy in the eyes of those in charge, because, hey, we got butts and seats because people want to see a thing they already know about. Cha-ching. It's a problem that we can see now with more recent cartoons getting the live-action treatment. Companies are running out of old material, and so we get adaptations like Moana and How to Train Your Dragon, which apparently is really good. Early reviews are saying it's great, so who knows. But point is, new cartoon, new adaptation. It shows a serious lack of imagination and a real stagnant creative space that makes a dude yearn for the times of Yogi Bear, Garfield, or Underdog. Remember Underdog? Now that was a picture. What I'm trying to say, in essence, is that if you're going to make a live-action adaptation, go big or go home. In the Disney space, this would mean more films like Cruella, which successfully translated the original idea of a dog-murdering psychopath into a fashionista heist flick. It took a property and made something new with it, albeit with familiar elements, to keep the general audience on board. Nice. Outside of the House of Mouse, think of the incredible creative force that is the Wachowski Speed Racer. It did total butts at the box office back in 2008, but as time goes on, it's become more and more clear that they were ahead of the curve. So, what do you think? Are the recent spate of live-action adaptations a boon to the industry, or are they mindless, creatively bankrupt garbage? Perhaps there's a moderate truth buried somewhere in the middle, or maybe you just don't like my face. Either which way, let me know in the comments, and until next time, thanks for watching ScreenRant.